Welcoming traveler. Get ready to level up in fantasy football.
Wizards, warlocks, and wonderful people. It is your dungeon master, your co-host, and your best friend, Mike, here to talk to you about some 2025 Dynasty Rookies. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Evan. Evan, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Mike. If you're their best friend, then am I their worst enemy?
Depends on how the rest of the episode goes, man.
All right, we'll find out.
It's going to be a fun one. I'm excited to dive into it. But first, let's get a little warm-up in. You never see NFL players just going out and running other than Chad Ochocinco. Let's talk real quick. Who was your favorite defensive player when you were growing up?
Oh, man. So being an Eagles fan, it was a very close tie between Brian Dawkins and the Axeman, Jeremiah Trotter.
Yep.
So love the fact that, this kid's coming into the league. But I still think I'm going to go with Dawkins. Just because that's Eagles allure right there. Back in the days when our defensive line couldn't stop a nosebleed and Dawkins was playing basically at the line of scrimmage coming downhill.
Nice. I think we're going to have both safeties from our Pennsylvania teams. But first, I want to talk about Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Got absolutely cooked by Trey Benson in the Clemson-Florida State game. So Jeremiah Trotter Jr., very good linebacker, very good coming into the class. Just shows how talented Trey Benson is. My favorite's Troy Polamalu. I mean, the Tasmanian Devil, head and shoulders himself. Like, tell me there's nothing more exciting for like an 8 or a 9-year-old kid than to see a dude jump over the line to stop a quarterback sneak. Like, tush push wouldn't exist if Troy was still in the league. So, great.
I don't know. Jalen might just, keep on running with him on his back. Come on now.
It would be a good time. We would definitely have fun with it. But that covers our cold open.
And now it's time for news and notes.
All right. In the least exciting news segment of the season, Chiefs signed Carson Wentz. Evan, do you care?
I mean, it's a prolific offense with Andy Reid. If Mahomes gets hurt, sure. I mean, why not roll with him at that point? But is he a guy that you're willing to roster on, say, a 28-player roster in Dynasty?
Ooh, he would be like the 27th or 28th player there.
Right? I feel like that's like right at that break point. Like, you tell me it's like a 30-man roster, like, sure, I'll take a chance on the prolific offense, being able to be with Andy Reid, being able to, if he plays games, which Mahomes has been an Iron Man, so you don't expect him to miss any time, but there's always a chance, and you want good pieces of good offenses.
Yeah. I would definitely roster him if I'm a rebuilding team and the rest of my team is cheeks. Just now I have a little dangle that injury happens. Now I have a way to take care of it. Let's talk about something that actually matters, though. Stephon Diggs traded to the Texans. The Bills get a 2025 second and $31 million in dead cap to have Stephon Diggs play for the Houston Texans, and they also sent a 5th and a 6th with it. This kind of felt like when you do a trade and it's already a little lopsided in your favor, and then they send a 4th on top, and it's like, well, now I have to take it. Evan, rank the Houston Texans wide receivers for me for fantasy football in 2023.
No, I mean, 2024, but yes.
Oh, jeez. What year is it?
Yeah. What's my name again? What can we do here? So 2024, I'm just going right down the line. I'm going Diggs, then Collins, then Dell. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think the biggest negative for this is going to be Dalton Schultz.
RIP.
I mean, it sucks. Like, I love taking Dalton Schultz and tight end leagues later in startups. Like, it was a lot of fun to be able to just rack in those points. CJ Stroud's the obvious biggest benefactor of this. But people are writing Dell and Nico off for basically just, I don't know, pennies at this point. I mean, I think I've seen people selling for 60% on the dollar on those guys. And look, Diggs is a great wide receiver. Don't get me wrong, but is he that big of a detriment to those guys, Mike?
I think he is going to crush one of them. I think what Dynasty gamers right now is they're overreacting to whichever one's on their team. They think that's the one that's going to get hurt. Diggs is almost perfectly in between sizes and roles for what Nico Collins and Tank Dell bring to the offense. So it's going to be a weird three-headed monster. But I think all will have their weeks. They'll all be fantasy relevant at some point. And I think looking ahead to 2025, like they're all going to have value. So I don't think there's any point in panic selling now. If anything, they're all a hold until we get a little more clarity on what the offense is going to look like. Cool.
So, yeah, just real quick here, Mike.
Yep.
Obviously, it's a different offense. But looking at what Diggs did, he ran almost 36% of his snaps from the slot last year and almost 63% out wide. I mean, he can play basically anywhere on the field. So
almost perfectly between what Nico and Tank does. Like,
oh yeah, it's almost like you just said that.
Crazy. No, it's really exciting to see CJ Stroud. Let's talk about this for a little bit, I guess, but we really want to get into the meat and potatoes here. Like CJ Stroud has launched into some people's tight end. I'm all over the place tonight. Quarterback one in their dynasty rankings. I'm still of the mindset like quarterback 2 is still high, and maybe even quarterback 3 is like a little juicy. Evan, do you think that people are overreacting to this trade?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, you look at the fact that both Nico and after the restructure of his contract, Diggs are both only signed through this coming season. I think that is a question mark inside of itself. We all know what teams can do with quarterbacks on their rookie contracts, and what ends up happening typically is if you find your guy after that first season on your rookie contract, you know that's your window. And the Texans have a window to be able to work this division, be able to give everybody a heck of a run in that division, and be able to make a actual legitimate contender for Houston, the city, to be able to see some actual good football for a change.
Yeah, the Houston Texans were picking top 2 in the draft, and now all of a sudden they are clear contenders in the AFC. It's awesome that they're able to turn it around. I love the idea that they're pushing all of the chips in and just sending it. Like, you have the window, go for it. And there's a lot of things to love about Houston. I will be putting a lot of bets on them for real life football. Fantasy, it's going to be hard to digest and figure out what's going on there. But let's put on our crystal balls real quick. And let's start talking about the 2025 rookies.
Let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Mike, did I hear you right? You said 2025 rookies. I thought the draft season of 2024 players. What are we doing?
Well, so here's the thing. In your 2024 rookie drafts, you're going to want to trade up. You're going to catch the fever. You're going to get the itch. And you're going to start sending 2025 picks like they're candy. Just throwing them away, giving them to the winds. Let's make sure that we know what those 2025 picks are going to look like and who some of those names are tied to. So instead of just saying a random 25 seconds for Hollywood Brown, now you're actually talking about what specifically that could look like. So full transparency to the listeners at home, Evan and I have not talked about these rankings at all. We have argued about the format that it will be, and it's going to be an electric hour-ish of talking about the rookies. We're actually not going to cap it this week, so if we go long, we go long. If we go short, we go short. Evan, you ready to dive into it?
All right, let's go, Mike.
Cool. So we are going to start with your 20 through 16. I know you have a tier that breaks right there, but we're doing it in batches of 5. Give me your 20 through 16, and we'll figure out ones to hammer down on.
Yeah, you're kind of killing me because, like you said, that's right in the middle of my tier 4. You know, that's my 17 through 25 right now. But you know, we're just gonna work with what you gave me. So 20, we're gonna start with Jaden Ott. All right, running back out of Cal. Okay, so
give me name, school, position, and a one-sentence scouting report.
One sentence scouting report. He popped off as a freshman, and people love seeing that.
Sweet.
Okay. We're going to go to Isaiah Bond. Somebody needs to catch the ball in Texas. He transferred from Alabama to Texas, and somebody needs to catch the ball there for Ewers. And why can't it be Bond? All right. We're going to go Travis Hunter, which that is a giant caveat. He plays for Colorado, but he also plays cornerback along with playing wide receiver. So I think he's going to ultimately go corner in the NFL, but if there's a chance that he does play wide receiver, he's going to move up these rankings. But we're going with Travis Hunter right there, right now at 18. All right. After that, we're going to go Barryon Brown, Kentucky wide receiver, speed to kill, punt returner as well, which I think is going to keep him on an NFL roster. Electric in the punt return game. Every time he touches the ball, he could be taking it to the house. And then finally, we're going to go with one of these tight ends that I can't decide which one is actually going to be the tight end in this class. So we're just going to go with Iowa, Luke Leachy. Why not? Iowa has a history of producing fantastic tight ends, and why can't he be next?
I love that. I was making this for you so we can put it up real quick. So Jade Knott. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just talk through some of these guys and where they're at in my rankings so that I don't double hit them. I love the Jade Knott call out. He hits my receiving threshold. Like I want to see him hit 25 receptions. He's hopefully going to declare early. And when you see 1,242 yards as a true freshman, like there's a lot to love. Isaiah Bond is higher, so I'm not going to talk about him yet. And I also, I love the Travis Hunter call out. If he was a full-time wide receiver, I think it would be hard to keep him out of your top 10. The issue is he's so talented as a cornerback. Like, what do we do with him? He's going to break IDP wide open if he plays both sides.
Yeah, if you play in an IDP league, like Travis Hunter could potentially be that cheat code that is going to get you points on the defensive side and also get you wide receiver points. And he can also kick return if needed.
He is going to ruin that format, which is exciting. I didn't look at Barryon Brown, so I would love if you can tell me a little bit more about him because I want the people at home to know about him, and also selfishly, I want to know more about him.
Yeah, so he's the deep play threat for that Kentucky offense. He's got speed to absolutely just burn any corner. He absolutely gobbles up space when he's getting on a corner. You don't look at him getting pressed off the line very often because teams know that he's so quick to be able to get around these corners that they won't be able to lay their hands on him. If they do lay their hands on him, stronger, slower corners typically are able to knock him off his route. But he's absolutely electric as a punt returner, as a kick returner as well, which I think makes him really valuable for an NFL franchise inside of itself, especially with the new kickoff rules. And you pair all of that together with the fact that he is a deep play threat, which I think keeps him on any NFL roster, which if you're keeping on an NFL roster, you have a chance to be that wide receiver 3, maybe push up to that wide receiver 2. Don't think he'll ever be a wide receiver 1 though.
Completely fair. A receiver that's going to stick around the league in the second round is actually like kind of gold. A lot of the times you just end up swinging on guys for upside and they end up missing. But do you want to hear mine or you just want to talk about yours all night?
I mean, sure. Yeah, we can talk about yours.
Cool. All right. At number 20, I actually also have Jade Knott, the running back from Cal. I am just so excited to watch him play. And with the prototypical size, he had an 89.5 PFF rushing grade. Like he does all of the things that you want a running back to see. And the fact that he's down at 20, it just shows how talented this running back class is. At 19, this is going to be a bit of a hot take. You might have him higher. I'm curious to see what you say. Trevor Etienne, the running back of Georgia. You drop him behind UGA's O-line. Like, he's not as shifty as his brother, but he has a little more like he wants to get to contact, which is exciting. The issue is he got a DUI 2 weeks ago. So, like, does he play? Did they suspend him? Did they keep him in the bench? Like,
yeah, so he's actually not in my top 20 because of that and the fact that he played at Florida. So I have no clue what to make of him because that Florida offense was just so bad.
Yep. Watching the human being run in space. He has contact balance. He has an attitude. He's exciting. Now we have an off-the-field problem. Now we have a transfer problem. Like there's a lot of concerns there. If you drop this player at UGA, he is going to be a second-round pick next year in rookie drafts at worst. Next up, we're going to talk about Colston Loveland. He's my tight end call-out. He was second in, I want to say, receiving yards at Michigan or targets. Like, basically, it was Roman Wilson and then Colston Loveland. He's useful as a blocker. He's going to find his way around the league. I don't love the upside. Like, he looked a little clunky on tape, but a guy that's going to have a role and is big enough that as he grows into his body, it almost looks like a Great Dane running with paws that are too big.
Does he remind you of Schoonmaker?
If you beefed Schoonmaker up, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you tack on like another 15, 20 pounds on Schoonmaker.
Yeah, dude. Could 100% see it. But if you pack 20 pounds on Schoonmaker, wasn't Schoonmaker a third-round pick in the NFL? Third or fourth?
He went to the Cowboys. That's all I know. And he's been horrible for the Cowboys, which makes me really happy.
It's tough. But anyway, I solicited earlier today for the all-fun team in America to watch. And my boy, Chris, pointed out Ricky White, wide receiver from UNLV. I don't know how much UNLV you've watched. But nope. 2023 NCAA receiving leaders. Ready? Number 1, Roman Dunze. Number 2, Malik Neighbors. Number 3, Ricky frickin' White. He's listed at 6'1", 185. Watching him, there's a 0% chance he is 6'1". That guy is 5'11", maybe. But he absolutely cooks corners. He's exciting to watch. And I think he's one of those guys that he's going to be off a lot of people's radars. He's going to get to the Senior Bowl. He's going to put together a couple of highlight tapes, and he's going to leave. So I'm in on Ricky White as a climber through the process. And then that is, was that 16?
That should have been 17. Jaden Knott, Trevor Etienne, Colston Loveland, Ricky White.
Then I have, in all of his glory, Travis Hunter. Second most missed tackles forced per reception in the class. If he was a full-time wide receiver, he'd be higher. We can talk about literally just Travis Hunter for an hour because he's such an exciting player. But I think we've beat a dead horse there. Anybody that you think is too high, too low, surprise names?
I mean, Ricky White, I still have no clue who he is. Apparently he plays for UNLV, which welcome to West Coast games. Like, you have to be an absolute degenerate. And I think I'm pretty degenerate when it comes to watching college football. But you have to be an absolute degenerate to try and get in and watch UNLV games. One, because the level of competition is not quite there. And on top of it, it's a West Coast game, which typically means it's a kickoff at like 9 p.m., 8 p.m., which, by the time those games end, you're looking at 11 o'clock. And I am catching some Z's at that point.
The East Coast dads get sleepy, but dude, he cooked the Mountain West. He's fun to watch. I think he has the movement skills that you're looking for. He's not going to, similar to your Kentucky boy, he's not going to be the number 1. He could very easily be a number 2 or a very high-end number 3 on an offense. That's, high-flying and exciting. So, cool. Questions, comments, concerns?
Looking at the tight end position, I'm assuming this means you don't have any tight ends above this. Is that accurate?
Yes. I'm guessing that you are about to only talk about tight ends for a little bit.
No, I'm done talking about tight ends.
Thank goodness. Let's talk about the fun players.
Well, no, let's just take a moment here really quickly and address this, because this does not feel like a tight end class. No. Outside just honorable mentions, I had Colston Loveland in an honorable mention, Oscar Delp taking over for the one, the only in Georgia, Brock Bowers. Is he going to be the guy? He was highly recruited. He has the athleticism to be able to do it. So we'll see. But yeah, I think it's those big 3 at tight end. And it's not even really a big 3. It's like a miniature, like in Mario where you hit the mystery block and you get the mini mushroom.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it feels like for tight ends for me in this class.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Urosic?
Stanford. Yeah, he's had a couple games where he's absolutely blown up. I can't find myself to come around on him. I've watched multiple Stanford games just because they were really easy to bet on for some reason last year. So I found myself watching a decent bit of Stanford. So sure, I mean, you can take a late round flyer on him. He's gonna get drafted. I mean, I don't think it's a necessity to load up on tight ends from this 2025 class.
I think there's 3 or 4 guys that like look like they could be in the Ben Sinnott, Theo Johnson lane, which isn't a bad thing, but I also don't think they're going to test like 99th percentile athletes. So
sure. You pull Brock Bowers out of this class, and I think it'll feel very similar to the 2025 class.
Yeah. Eurosic transferred to UGA, by the way. So good to call out, Chris. Exciting. Cool. Evan, hit me with your 15 through 11.
Yeah, so once again, your numbers here, Mike, just going on my tier-based scouting for when I'm multiple years out,
No, you have to have numbers, and if you have one player higher than another, it means you hate the second player.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. So we're going to just start dumping with some running backs here. We're going to go Amarion Hampton, North Carolina running back, absolute bruiser, fantastic. Just watch him play North Carolina football. North Carolina is a little tough to watch this coming season, most likely. Drew Howard. That's another quarterback I'm looking at on my list. Drake May is no longer there, so it's the Drake May-less era coming in. I'm also looking at Jordan James out of Oregon. Without Bucky Irving being there, I think he's going to take over a much more significant role. Once again, another bigger back that's going to be able to carry a workload. Ashton Jaunty out of Boise State, another running back. Mike, you're smiling, so I'm assuming you have him a little bit higher. But we'll talk about that a little bit.
This is blasphemy.
A little bit later here, and then I have Tez Johnson out of Oregon as well. Absolutely love Tez Johnson and what he was able to do. He is on the older side, so do be aware of that. He did use the COVID year, so he is an extra year senior. He started at Troy, so level of competition at Troy wasn't great, but he came to Oregon and absolutely lit it up. And then with a guy that we're going to talk about later, taking the Troy Franklin role, I think Tez can stay in the role that he has at Oregon with a very accurate West Coast type of quarterback in Dylan Gabriel transferring to Oregon as well, which I think is huge for him. Creates after the catch, slips tacklers. Like, it's so much fun to watch Tez Johnson just put his foot in the ground, stop, and then just change direction. Really good at finding space against the zone from what I saw. Hands are a little questionable at times, but he can figure it out.
Can I give you a comp that's going to make you hate Tez Johnson?
Oh no. Okay.
He's anemic Kadarius Toney.
Stop.
I can't unsee it.
Stop. All right.
I love him though. He's fun, and I liked Kadarius Toney, but
okay. And then moving on, Carson Beck is going to be the last one in that group for me. Huge completion percentage. I think he was like 72, 73% this past year. Whenever you're on a national championship contending team, you're going to get plenty of airtime. Carson Beck, I think, is going to be very similarly viewed to how Mac Jones was viewed coming out of Alabama by a lot of dynasty gamers. They're not going to like him. And if he doesn't immediately hit in the NFL, I think his stock is going to absolutely plummet. But hopefully he has another good season.
Completely agree. I'm just going to hit some of the guys that I have completely similarly. So Amarion Hampton, I love, like, box score stuffer, like 1,500 yards, 29 receptions for 222 yards. I wrote that he's slippery, shifty, and has some relentless leg drive. There's a lot of really good things to like there. I put USC there like a silly goose. That's a typo, everybody. But anyway, he does all of the things you want a running back to do. We just need to see a little bit more, say, production without having a first-round quarterback to kind of take some of the pressure off. So I'm excited to see what he can do at the next level. I'm going to be honest. You're going to get mad at me. I don't see a path to fantasy football usefulness for Tez Johnson.
Okay.
I like him. I think he's a very good college receiver. I think he will be useful on a NFL team, but he's a similar player to Ricky White to me, but a lot of his production may have come because his quarterback is his adopted brother. So if I had a brother on the team, I'd throw them the ball more often. I don't know if he's going to get the same treatment he does next year. Do you think that Carson Beck takes a step forward next year?
I mean, what he did this past season was fantastic. I mean, it was exactly what Georgia needed him to be able to do. I'm looking for Carson Beck to not take a step forward. I'm looking for him to be just as good without Brock Bowers and without Lad McConkey.
Yes.
Like, they were 100% the first and second read every single time he was dropping back. And that was his go-to guys. So when you start looking at the offense and looking at what they're doing, I just want him to continue with the production that he's been doing. I want to see him continue to not take bad sacks. I want to see him continue to not turn the ball over. Although 6 interceptions was a little high, he could cut down on that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, all Georgia needs him to do is unofficially, we're going to say, be a game manager here and not losing the game. So.
You throw game manager on somebody and it's like game manager derogatory, like just so mean. Really, it's like game manager, national champion.
But Alex Smith was a game manager, and for fantasy purposes, Alex Smith was viable for many seasons.
Yeah, take Ryan Tannehill 10 years ago. Plug and play quarterback too, buddy.
There you go.
So, all right, I like it. I'm going to jump into mine. So the reason I didn't hit on Isaiah Bond as much earlier is because I have him at 15, the wide receiver from Texas via Alabama. Going from Jalen Milroe to Quinn Ewers. And this is actually, no, it is a little shaded Jalen Milroe. Like, he couldn't connect on passes. Amazing athlete, super fun to watch. Quinn Ewers also at times struggles, but we need to see a big step forward from him. I think Bond would have had 1,000 receiving yards if you count all of the times that Milroe just missed him, whether through reads or through throws. I am about to ruffle some big blue feathers. 14, Donovan Edwards. How often does a running back take a step forward in their vision versus they put on some weight, they get a little tougher through contact? They learn how to manipulate defenders a little better. They get a little shiftier in the open field versus just like learning how to understand where they are in space and manipulate people the right way. I need him to turn it on in 2024. And if there's somebody that's going to make me look stupid, it's Donovan Edwards. I think he's going to light the combine up. He's going to have a couple of highlight runs. But even if you look at his runs this last year, a lot of times he literally ran into his offensive linemen's butts and then just ran away. He was just pinballing by accident. There was no vision. There was no plan. There was no pressing the line. He was spearing his guard in the butt and then finding a hole afterwards. So not for me.
Would you believe if I say he's not in my top 20?
Oh, okay. I thought I was the low man here.
Nope.
Okay, well then you tell me why I'm too high on him then. Man, getting hot in here.
Mean, look, Blake Corum's fantastic, but you look at the running back splits, and the running back splits tell me that Michigan didn't have confidence in Edwards to be able to get it done. And that is rather concerning, especially when you have a elite offensive line as they did. Now you're trying to bring in a new quarterback that's not going to be able to run the offense as efficiently. You have the Big Ten defenses, which most of the Big Ten defenses are very good run defenses.
Yes.
So you're going to be put to the test. You know, everybody always talks about SEC. Look, the Big Ten's got some dogs on the defensive lines that are absolutely holding things together. They got some dogs at linebackers that are just coming for throats of running backs. So we'll be able to see whether he's able to take this role and run with it. I just didn't see nearly enough last season after being high on him going into last season and being excited for what he could do. Maybe it's a little bit of overreaction because I was so disappointed.
Yeah.
But welcome to fantasy football.
I feel way better because I put him at like 21, and then I was like, I need to move him up a little. I was like, can I really have him over the UNLV guy? Put him a little higher. Do I really want him over a guy that might not play receiver? So I just kept moving him up a little bit, but I couldn't put him over this next guy, Omarion Hampton, running back out of USC or UNC. Dang, I did it again. Dude, 6 foot flat, 220, and runs like it. Like, you love everything that you want to see there. I'm excited to see what he can do in 2024. He's checking every box analytically that you want to see. It's unfortunate he couldn't declare this year because I think he would have been the RB1.
I don't know if he would have been the RB1. I mean, Trey Benson's making a pretty good claim right now.
The analytics nerds would have loved Hampton.
The analytics nerds would have absolutely loved Hampton. You are absolutely correct.
Film guys, it would have been in between. I like Trey Benson a lot. I think Hampton would have had a case for it. But you're going to hate this next one, and I'm so excited for it. Jonah Coleman, the running back out of Washington via Arizona. This is my early flag plant. I'm calling it. This is happening. 5'9", 225 pounds. Listen, this is just a little metapod who just he's going to hit level 10. He's going to turn into a beautiful butterfree. And going from Arizona, where he had 900 yards, 25 receptions, immaculate vibes while he's running, to UW, where they need a workhorse and they're going, like, they're trying to figure out what the post-Penix years look like. They're trying to figure out, like, they lost a lot of starters. And they went out and they got one of the best running backs in the transfer portal. And they're going to put him behind, hopefully, what is another good offensive line like Washington has continued to put together. When I watched him, it looks like a Maurice Jones-Drew rushing style. Like, nasty stiff arm, great contact balance, soft hands, able to make guys miss in the open field. Like, the things that you look to see a running back do to succeed, Jonah Coleman's doing them. Thoughts?
I don't have a clue.
All right, cool. Well,
which is really interesting because I watched Arizona football because I wanted to watch one of the wide receivers that we're going to talk about in a little bit here. I think we're going to talk about. I hope we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about.
No, we're talking about him.
Okay.
Maybe you were so locked in on the passing game that they didn't show the running game, so you could have just missed out on.
I was also super excited about Noah. How do I say it? Fifita? I always forget how to say it, how the announcers always forget. I think it's Fifita, the freshman quarterback for Arizona that ended up taking over.
Yeah.
So
I hate that I made this a cutoff because I have a standalone tier of 2 quarterbacks at 10 and 11. So I'll just, 11. Quinn Ewers, quarterback out of Texas. And I'm going to say the same thing about Quinn that I'm going to say about my number 10, little burying the lead there for later. I want you to picture this. Strong arm quarterback puts it together in their final season before declaring for the NFL. And then the draft cycle argues about whether or not they're good or whether or not the sloppy film from years prior is more important. Does that sound like an arc that could happen to Quinn Ewers and then he gets picked top 15 anyway?
Yeah, 100% when Texas is going to be in the playoffs this year.
Yes. They're nasty. They're putting together a good roster around him. And former top overall recruit in his class, like regarded as one of the best quarterback recruits that we've ever seen until Archie came along. So hopefully that doesn't ruin it. So I have the whole list here. Boom. Isaiah Bond, Donovan Edwards, Omarion Hampton, Jonah Coleman, and Quinn Ewers. I think there's a lot of similar things there. Is there anybody there that you absolutely hate? Or is it just the Jonah Coleman you didn't see him?
I mean, the Donovan Edwards, but we already kind of talked about that.
That's
and
fair.
I also could be, a little bit of jolted lover syndrome. Being excited about Edwards and Rocket Sanders, who's also not on my list.
I didn't want to touch him.
Yeah, I just couldn't get myself to do it.
Yep. Especially, I wish that Rocket would have declared this year because next year's class, like, he's going to get buried.
Oh, 100%.
He's going to end up a day 3 pick and just like an afterthought. So
let's take a pause here real quick. Do you have anybody, Mike, that you think your gut is telling you is going to go back to college? We're a year in advance here.
Can I feel really bad. I think Judkins might go back to college. I'm not ranking him that way, but I mean, let's talk about it. He's going to spend the whole year working with Trevion Henderson. He's going to get a giant NIL deal. He's going to see what's going on there. And there's a possibility that Ohio State's like, hey, you can come back and make almost as much as you make in the NFL. And like, see, Trevion came back for us. Can you come back and try and give him that pitch? It would break my soul, but I can see it happening. What about you?
Man, I think it's the one of the quarterbacks that I'm about to talk about. So,
okay, let's get into it.
You want to roll into that?
Send it, brother.
All right.
Give me your top 10 to 6.
All right. So at 10, I'm lockstep with you, Quinn Ewers. Like, there's just too many questions for how highly recruited he was, how high the expectations were, and I'm trying to navigate whether is it the expectations were set so high that he's achieving, but just not to the level of the expectations that's causing me to just kind of feel meh on him? Or is it actually that he's not as good as everybody thought he was?
We can anchor on this for a second if you'd like to.
Yeah, let's do it.
His footwork gives me headaches. It runs me up a wall. He is not in lockstep from his feet down to like up to his shoulders. It is all over the place because he's gotten away with it. And that's what leads to, like, sometimes it looks like you can throw a football through the eye of a needle. Like, he is just zipping this thing, and the spiral on it's perfect, and it's hitting A.D. Mitchell in the face. Like, it is perfect. And there's other times where he drops back, feels a little bit of pressure. He like does a weird like shoulder thing, and then he throws it completely sideways, and it's on the moon because he has the arm strength that is just a rocket ship, but it's just gone.
Or his feet are so bad that he's thrown into the wind, like some of the games that he played this past year, and the ball just falls like 10 yards short of his wide receiver.
Yes. I can see the allure. I can see a quarterback coach saying, give me that guy and I will fix him. But it's not like oh, shoot, big fella, Joe Milton. It's not like Joe Milton this year where it's like, oh, I can fix him. It's like
without a steering wheel, as you said.
Exactly. It's not like this year where like you can't see the vision. Like, I can see it. Landing spot's going to matter a lot with him. I'm also biased as a Texas fan. So,
okay. The quarterback that I think is going to end up being in the 26 class and not the 25 class, but is eligible in the 25 class is Drew Aller, my Penn State quarterback. Yeah. Okay, Mike, I see that reaction. So there was major issues with the Penn State passing game this past season. And it was pretty clear. They got a new offensive coordinator. So now you're looking at that. You're looking at a quarterback that used to, in high school, absolutely just chuck the ball down the field. You're looking at a quarterback that has absolute prototypical size, 6'4", 6'5", somewhere in that range, 230 to 235.
6'5", 243 is what he's listed at.
Okay, so he bumped up this offseason because
he's a hoss.
Because last season he was like 235, and he came into college at 230. So, I mean, the expectations for him in his recruiting class, I'm pretty sure 247 had him as the number 1 quarterback in his recruiting class, and I think he was number 3 overall in the class. People were already comparing him to Josh Allen coming out of high school. They said this is the guy that could potentially be the next Josh Allen. Penn State fans got super excited. We're finally having a quarterback that we expected to be the best quarterback that we've had in 2 decades. I mean, name the last great Penn State quarterback in the NFL. Like, it's a long time.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. All right. And then you look at the wide receivers. Man, the wide receivers were such a disappointment last year. But what did they do? Penn State said, we have a great defense. We have incredible running backs. We have a very good offensive line. What does that mean? Oh, we're going to hand the ball off. We're going to run the ball. We're going to tell Drew to not turn the ball over, which I'm pretty sure. Oh, gosh, Trace McSorley. Bro. Just stab my heart, why don't you? Goodness gracious. Gouge my eyes out? Ugh. Yeah, so what did Drew do? He was looking at a lot of short and intermediate routes. And when you have wide receivers that are very average at getting off the line, very average at creating separation, it created a lot of tight windows for him to have to shove the ball into, which is why he was sitting right around that 60% completion percentage. But you look at his turnover-worthy plays, it was like 1.1% on his turnover-worthy plays this last season. That's a high mark. That is something that you want out of your franchise quarterback. You don't want them turning the ball over. You look at his PFF grade on his deep balls, the deep shots that they were taking, I mean, he was all over the place. I think that's going to be the issue. And I think that's going to be part of the reason why he ends up staying another year, to be able to continue to develop, continue to polish. And he's going to see, well, I might not get the draft capital that I want, which, I mean, being a high recruit, you're going to want to have top 5 capital.
If I may offer, in the 2025 class, I think Drew Alar he's going to get good draft capital because there's going to be quarterback hungry teams. We're going to see the 2022 and 2023 bugs come back to bite. Like, people are already hungry for quarterbacks. Like, maybe 2023 or 2024 can like satiate some people. But I'm just going to get into it real quick. My number 10 is Drew Alar because picture this: a strong arm quarterback puts it together in their final season. Except Alar is Josh Allen's size. I didn't see the same kind of Josh Allen plays on tape. Like, he doesn't play with the same, like, I'm a linebacker at quarterback. But he could. If this is just like Josh Allen with a feeling of mortality. That's going to be my pro comp for him.
See, I think he feels more like a Big Ben in the pocket. Like,
yes,
he doesn't run like Josh Allen. Let's get that out of the way. Like, the Josh Allen comp that people are trying to make on him is, in my opinion, completely irresponsible, because
it's just the same size.
He does not run. Yeah, it's a size comp. It's not a play style comp. I think NFL wise, it's a lot more like Big Ben, where he's next to impossible to bring down in the pocket. I mean, just a mammoth of a man for defensive linemen to try and get down. I mean, just imagine a DB trying to get a corner blitz or a safety blitz, trying to bring him down. Like, you're full speed, and he's just like, oh yeah, you're going to bounce off of me. Yep. So, okay. I can respect that.
But funny, we have Quinn Ewers and Drew Alar back to back, one spot away. But let's get into your 8 real quick.
All right. So my 8 for me, and people might hate this, Ollie Gordon. Yeah. Okay, Mike. All right.
No, just wait. This is hilarious. He's my number 8.
Oh, what? Okay, fantastic. I mean, look, the kid got Heisman votes. Like, I mean, that should say it all right there. You watch him play; he's basically the entire offense for them. Absolute rushing champ. Like, just runs and runs and runs.
Yep.
I mean, I don't really have a ton to say other than actually go ahead and watch his games, and you'll quickly see what is meant to be seen.
Yeah. I'm just going to riff off of you real quick. He's a bit of a big game hunter. Like, he loves to give up the 5-yard gain to chase the 30-yard gain. And so there's sometimes that I'm really excited about that, and there's sometimes that I think an NFL coach is going to look at him and be like, please stop doing what you're doing. So, no, that you can't argue with having – I mean, you can argue he should be higher. He should certainly be top 8.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to 7, and it's Emeka Egbuka. I think Egbuka is a perfect 1B in so many NFL offenses. All right. I think when you look at his profile, we're looking at a guy that you got to remember was injured a lot for last year. All right. His 2023 season was hampered by multiple injuries, and you're looking at a guy that primarily operates out of the slot. he does play on the outside a little bit, which I think will be really interesting to see how Ohio State ends up using him this coming season. Do they try and push him to the outside a little bit more, or do they let him operate as the primary guy in the slot? Because he was looking at about a 30% clip in his career operating outside wide. Number 9 player overall in the 2021 recruiting class, and he was the number 1 wide receiver. So he has the recruiting pedigree. Everybody's known the name, especially because a lot of us thought that he was going to be in this year's class, which, looking at the wide receiver classes comparatively, it's so much better, in my opinion, for him to be in this draft because of the fact that he could potentially push for a top 3 wide receiver in this class. I think he slots into 4 ultimately, but he has elite body control, and he's going to get the chance finally to be the guy. Like, just think about it. He was fighting against Marvin Harrison Jr. last year. Like, yeah, sorry, you're not going to win that battle.
Evan, I have bad news.
Okay.
Jeremiah Smith's going to eat his lunch.
They're not going to look. Okay, Jeremiah Smith is incredible. Watching him
dominate.
It's a thing of beauty. But
yes.
If he hurts anything, he hurts Tate and Ennis. All right, yep. Tate and Ennis are going to be the 2 wide receivers because I think Egbuka is blocking if he stays in the slot. Ennis should operate in the slot in that offense, and I mean, yeah, we don't need to go that far. That's an incoming freshman.
I worry that Emeka Egbuka, because he has a little bit of like, we've already known the name. He had a couple of injuries. We kind of forget about him. Maybe he underwhelms this year as he's a true senior, right?
Yeah, he should be a true senior. Yep.
I'm worried that he is going to take a step back and fall down both NFL and Dynasty draft boards. I have him outside my top 20. I don't feel great about it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't feel good about it.
So we completely disagree on this one then.
I'm calling my shot. I think that he takes a big step back this year. I don't see the juice. I see a guy that thrived because the players around him were better than him. I could be very wrong, but also I only watched like 2 or 3 games of each of these guys. So like, this isn't the super deep dive. It's a year out. Let's pump the brakes.
Yeah. So being a giant Big Ten fan, and unfortunately watching my Penn State Nittany Lions get, completely just beaten every single year, all the time by Ohio State. It's pretty frustrating to deal with. I mean, I look at Egbuka as a guy that has route running ability to all levels of the defense. He knows how to run routes to all levels. You look at him, and once again, another guy that can be used as a punt and kick returner, which I think is a plus for NFL offenses. A guy that also just eats zone defenses. I mean, he's fantastic at finding the holes in the zone, and he just sits right in those zones, and you're just like, oh, great. He's making another reception right in between the backers. Cool. Fantastic. Absolutely love that. But I do agree. There is nothing that screams elite or special about him. So I do understand that, Mike.
I worry when I don't see elite traits, elite production, or an early declare. I'm not using a top 10 pick on that player. I would rather swing on one of the running backs. I'd rather swing on one of the quarterbacks. I'd rather try and find someone else. But I think we have a really weird tier here. So this was your 6, right, Egbuka? That was your 7.
This is 7. 10,
so give me your 6 real quick, and then we'll wrap it up with that.
Yeah. So my 6 right here is going to be Evan Stewart. All right, Evan Stewart was an absolute disappointment for Texas A&M. You look at him coming out in his recruiting class, so the 2022 recruiting class, he was the number 5 overall player in that class and the number 1 wide receiver. You look at him and you watch him play, you watch him just walk around the field. He just looks like a hyper athlete, like just next level athleticism, and you see it. Is there going to be questions that he is a little skinny? Sure, but we've seen skinny wide receivers be able to do it with an elite trait, and it's this elite athleticism, great body control, he's able to work with the A&M quarterbacks that have been booty cheeks, to say it nicely. That program has had its issues, to say the least, over the last couple of years. You watch him in the open field, though. I mean, you're just zipping, absolutely zipping. And I think he is a perfect replacement for the Troy Franklin role in this Oregon offense. I think he slides right into that role. And I think he is 100% going to absolutely eat everybody's lunch this year, with finally having an accurate West Coast quarterback that's going to get the ball out of his hands on short routes, on intermediate routes, be able to deliver it with touch.
My one sentence scouting report for Evan Stewart was fast boy, needs his route tree unlocked a little bit, but Oregon is the place to do it. So I see everything that you're saying. Were you a little concerned about his separation?
He relies on his athleticism a lot, and if he polishes his routes, I think the separation is going to be just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, he seems almost like disinterested in separating. He's like, I can just moss him. It'll be fine.
He's like, just give me the ball, and I will just run faster than them. I will cut harder than them, and they're going to be in the sideline, and I'm going to be in the end zone. He's
just like, I'm going to jog next to this corner. Don't worry about it. But yeah.
The biggest concern with Stewart at this point was there are some leaks coming out of A&M at this point, and they're not even really leaks at this point, of character concerns for Stewart being an absolute diva, which, look, I don't mind my wide receivers having a little diva in them when they're the number one on the offense. I want to see them want the ball. I want to see them get frustrated when they're not getting the ball, because it shows that they care. But some of the rumors going around are that it wasn't a productive diva. It wasn't wanting the ball. It's just everybody around me sucks. Why does this team so bad? So little concerning there, but we'll see how it goes with Oregon. We'll see if any of that gets talked about.
To be fair, A&M was kind of annoying, so I don't blame him that much. Cool. Let's dive into my 10 through 6 real quick. We've already talked about this. My 10, Drew Allar. The Josh Allen comp, he is Josh Allen that realizes he's mortal. He's Ben Roethlisberger. He's Dante Culpepper. He's like, insert your favorite big, mostly in the pocket quarterback. Dante Culpepper, like, with a hobbled injury. Number 9, Evan Stewart, familiar name. We just talked about him. If you guys need tips on that, let me know. Number 8, Ollie Gordon. We already hit him. A little bit of a big game hunter. You can't argue with the production, though. He's going to, like, spreadsheet guys are going to love him. The thing that's a little, I don't know if this is a positive or negative, almost half of his yards came on breakaway runs. Like, are we going to complain that he got 850 yards on long runs? Or are we going to be happy that he got 800? Like, got to figure out how you feel about that.
I mean, it's the Trey Benson argument all over again. I mean, Trey Benson was getting his yardage on long runs.
Yeah. Oh, no, my running back scores too much. Number 7, and I think this is where it's going to show the difference between your mindset and my mindset as a dynasty gamer and just a drafter. I'm going to say this wrong, Tetaiora McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona. Watched 3 full games because I was excited about it. It took me 3 plays to realize what this player is. He's Michael Pittman. If you took Michael Pittman, you threw him in a time machine, and you put him in Arizona, it's exactly what he is.
No, he's a better version of Drake London.
Which is what Michael Pittman kind of is.
Okay, whatever.
I like him a lot. I don't mean Michael Pittman derogatory. I mean Michael Pittman complimentary. Like,
sure. I understand.
This is a very good player who is big-bodied and able to use his frame in an effective manner while also separating like a player he's listed 6'5", 205? He's not 6'5". He's like 6'3.5", maybe 6'4".
Well, I mean, he's added 25 pounds since he came to college.
Good for him.
So he's growing into his frame. Let's also remember that.
Love that. Let's move into tight end. But no, he's a good wide receiver. I'm excited about him. I just, in my mind, 7 in this year's class is Rome Odunze. I don't think 7's a bad thing. Like you're talking about a player that is very good, very excited about him, and he is in a tier that I would be very comfortable moving him up almost all the way to 4. Like I have 4 through 9 as one big gross tier. So,
Okay, interesting.
with that, my quarterback 2 in the class as it stands now, which it's terrible to say, Carson Beck. I understand everything you're saying about the Mac Jones comp, because not because of the play style, but because of the production, the expectations, and he was surrounded by whatever. I don't care. Watching Ladd McConkey, watching Brock Bowers, watching the Georgia program do what the Georgia program does. Like, when is the last time that we had a quarterback run that offense that was also an early declare, that also has prototypical size, that also checks all of the boxes? Like, Stetson Bennett was the quarterback there from 2022 until 2004. Like, he was there for so long. So now that we finally have somebody that has the measurables to be a quarterback that we're excited about, I think Carson Beck has the juice. So he's my 6. Here's my list. Tell me what you think.
I mean, I think you're low on Evan Stewart. I think you're severely low on Tet.
Well, I think you're severely low on Ashton Shanti, so.
I mean, all right, that's fair.
No, but this is to say, so Drew is my 10, and then I have a tier break at 9. I think 9 through 4 is another big tier. So
yeah, and we were talking about that pre-show. I mean, my tier 2 is 3 through 7. All right, so
yeah.
Evan Stewart as my 6 is that beginning of my next tier.
Yeah. I think there's very clearly a wide receiver one. I think projecting to me, there's a quarterback one, and projecting to me, there's a running back one. So I think that kind of forms the top of the class, and I'm excited to hear your top 5. Let's get into it.
So you think there's a clear gap for an RB1? Because I have 3 running backs that I think are a 1A, 1B, 1C.
I won't say clear gap. I will say if one separates themselves, it's this one.
Okay. All right. So here we go then. I'm going to go with apparently I have 6 guys that I still have checked off. I don't know why.
Well, let's do your 6 through 1 then. Whatever.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So off by 1 here. So the 3 running backs that I'm talking about are Nicholas Singleton, Penn State running back, absolute phenom, local Reading boy, and played at Governor Mifflin, thousands of yards for Mifflin, went to Penn State, could be the next Nick Chubb. Everything that I see out of Singleton tells me that he has the track background. He has the nastiness in his running style. He has the ability to break runs. So, yeah, Singleton is going to be that guy. Quinshon Judkins for Ohio State now, formerly of Ole Miss, and Travion Henderson, also of Ohio State, which pains me to say because that's 2 Ohio State running backs.
Are they in that order? Because I'm trying to make your list.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it'd be Singleton, Henderson, Judkins. Sorry. Appreciate it, Mike. Thanks for keeping me on track here. Yeah, I mean, Judkins, you look at his efficiency metrics last year, it dipped. Don't get me wrong. But you look at how Ole Miss used him in that offense, and it's absolutely electric. You combine Judkins with Henderson to be able to share a workload in a backfield. Production from a total numbers standpoint is going to dip for both of them. Ohio State has wide receivers, but they also have a new quarterback coming in. Yes, graduate quarterback coming in, but let's also remember they have 2 of the best running backs in the country, period, hands down. I think you can make an argument for both of them to average north of 5.5 yards per carry this season, which would be absolutely insane. Along with the fact that they are both very good receiving backs. you look at that, and I don't think I question the hands. I don't question the ability to come out of the backfield. I don't question any of that with Judkins or Henderson. So I'm excited for all three of those running backs. And I think this very well could become like a 2017 running back class where we're looking 7 years down the road and we're like, holy crap, there are still a chunk of these guys active in the league carrying our fantasy rosters. Comments, concerns, Mike?
I love it. You're too low on Ashton Jeanty. He has the sauce. I think that Ashton Jeanty can be in this tier, if not in the middle of this tier. And then I wanted to get your opinion on this. How do you feel about Nick Singleton? So I had him at 21.
21?
So
the
big step forward, he takes big game hunter a little too far. So I saw him too many times like dancing all the way in the backfield, and it almost went from confidence in his athleticism to almost like losing all of that faith in himself and running scared. Which it just looked like he took a giant step forward from 2022 Singleton, who I loved and thought was going to crush 2023, to a running back that has lost himself and needs to go on like a faith-finding mission to realize who he is.
All right. Let's also remember he ran a 10.89 100. So he was a track and field guy as well. So he did that as a junior in high school. Let's also remember that he absolutely just dominated Pennsylvania football. You look at what he did, and he had 165 rushes his senior year for 2,048 yards.
Yeah.
I don't even know yards per carry what that is, but it is a very large number.
148 for 2,000?
2049 for 165. So 12.4
yards carry.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you fully expect that out of the number one running back recruit in Pennsylvania football right there. Stays in Pennsylvania, which I absolutely love. And then the fact that, look, Drew Aller and that offense, I stand by the fact that the Penn State offense was completely broken this year. And the running backs between Singleton and Katron Allen are the only thing that held that offense together this year.
Yep. I'm going to ask, I'm not a Penn State fan. Why did Katron Allen have more yards, carries, and usage in the offense than Nick Singleton if Nick Singleton's a top 6 pick in this class?
Yeah, because Singleton was seen as the explosive guy. He was also doing kick return. So he was on kick return duty on top of everything. And he was in the game. And Katron Allen is no slouch. Katron Allen is in my honorable mentions. I think 100% he should be drafted when he declares next year. Hopefully declares next year. For him, would love to see him stay at Penn State. But you look at all of it, Singleton still has all of the athleticism, which I think keeps him above Katron Allen in any dynasty rank, in my opinion.
It concerns me when I see a running back being outpaced by a back that we think is worse than him. Like, did he piss the coaches off? Is he not as good as we think? Like, I just saw a different back in 2022 and 2023, which causes me concern. And then I think the box score backs it up. So he's still a supreme athlete. If he puts it together and the light comes back on, because it was on before, like, he's going to crush it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm banking on the fact that, one, you're saving his legs in college right now by not making him be the super ball carrier. Just feed the ball, Derrick Henry-esque at Alabama 35 times for 4 straight weeks. He's not being asked to do that, which I really appreciate. And he supposedly, there was some writers saying that he asked the coaching staff to manage his workload because he wanted Katron to get involved, and he knows that he's going to the NFL. Singleton knows that he's going to the NFL. So he wants to be as electric as possible. He wants to show that that's what he can do. And you're about to say, oh, is that a guy that's going to quit on his team? Oh, is that a guy that doesn't have the dog in him? Okay,
Call me old-fashioned.
You can make that argument.
Call me old-fashioned. I want my running
fair.
back to want to run the ball.
He wants to run the ball. He just wants to be electric as well.
No, I fully support athletes taking care of themselves. It makes a ton of sense. I think we're going to need to see a big 2024, and I'm all about it, and I'm excited about it.
Yes, I'm with you.
If it's outpaced again, I'm going to scream on this podcast.
Which is very fair. I will completely give you that. Once again, it may be a little bit of Penn State bias. I fully admit to that. I tried to pull that out, but there's a little bit of Homer in all of us. So not going to be fully pulled out of that bias.
When I put this rough draft list together, I did have him top 6. I was like, oh, I'm going to love him. This is exciting. And then I was like, oh no, what happened?
Yep, that's fair. That's fair. But he's going to have a young breakout age, which the analytic guys are going to love. Yeah. Moving on, number 3, Shedeur Sanders. He's the quarterback that everybody talks about. He has the hype. He has the name pedigree. You look at his turnover-worthy plays as well. I think he was 4th or 5th.
Number 1 in the country.
Okay, there you go. I don't think it was actually number 1 in the country because he was check. He was 1.4%, and I know Drew Alar was 1.1.
Doing the pod on the pod. Let me double check.
So, but you look at Shedeur, and everybody seems to think that he is a running quarterback. Look at his rushing yards. Look at how he uses his legs. He uses his legs to move behind the line of scrimmage and be able to chuck the ball downfield, because that is exactly what he wants to do. And when you look at his PFF deep passing grade, which is 20 plus yards or more, 95.3. That's electric. I mean, if you're talking about a quarterback that is going to swing the ball downfield and find his wide receivers, put the ball in a position for his wide receivers to be able to make chunk plays. What do we love in fantasy? Chunk plays. What do we love in the NFL? Chunk plays. That is what we want to see. You compare that, or you put that together with the name pedigree. You put that together with the fact that Deion is his dad. You put that together with the fact that he and Deion revitalized this Colorado football program that was left for dead. The Buffaloes were left for dead. Nobody wanted to go there. Now Deion's over here bringing in an entire transfer portal offensive line. Everybody on that offensive line for this coming season is going to be a transfer, or likely to be a transfer if the offensive line shakes out the way people are expecting them to shake it out. Mike, did you figure it out yet?
I'm still looking.
Nah, that's all right. I'm pretty sure he was 1.4% turnover worthy plays, which is insane.
Yeah, 1.6. I actually just found it, which shucks.
Yeah.
If we can talk about a quarterback that we're talking about, a supreme athlete with great pedigree that decides to use their athleticism to extend plays and pass the ball, all while doing this as their first year in a real, quote, real conference.
Sure.
You love to see it. And then we're talking about a 5% big time throw percentage, which 5% is a lot of people's cutoff. So he barely got there. Good at big time throws, not a lot of turnover worthy plays. Only 3 interceptions. While also I think he was the second, either first or second most pressured quarterback in America. So
if you watched any Colorado football game, because you kind of had to, because Deion was a lot of fun to watch. Every time you saw people on the sidelines, you're just like, oh, okay, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer. Yep, cool. Glad to see him there. You pair all of that together, and you're just like, this kid understands it. Shedeur understands the game of football. He understands how to keep plays alive, which if you are going to have the number 1 overall pick, what are the odds that you have a great offensive line? Probably pretty slim.
0?
Probably pretty slim.
Well, the Bears.
The Bears lucked into it, though.
I know they cheated.
They traded for that pick, a year in advance. So
cool. So you got Shedeur at 3. Let's hear your 2 and 1.
Yep. Tet is my My two, I already kind of talked about him. I said that I thought you were way too low. You look at the fact that his receiving total was about 33%, 1/3 of Arizona's passing offense this past season. That's huge. You look at the fact that his ADOT was 12.9 this past season.
Yep.
I mean, almost a 13-yard ADOT, 2.79 yards per route run. Okay, it could be a little bit higher. You'd like to see it in that 3 to say, okay, yes, this is that guy. 6 yards after the catch per reception. Number 4 wide receiver in his recruiting class in 2022. 4-star recruit. True junior. Added 20, 25 pounds since he came to college. Growing into his body. High level body control. You look at him absolutely just contort his body to be able to make these great catches. High points the ball. You look at him, incredible hands. I think he had two drops? 2 drops I think he had all season. On top of it, polished route runner. You look at him run his routes. I loved watching him run his routes. Catches the ball well through traffic, which is also big for me. Like the amount of wide receivers in college that don't want to go over the middle, that see linebackers stick their hands out in front of them and just distract them and they end up dropping it. All right. And he also gets his college quarterback back. You know, he gets Noah Fifita. Think it's Fifita coming
say
back.
that 10 times fast.
Yeah, right. Gets him coming back after they lost their coach to Washington, which I think that's a huge win for him to be able to have a quarterback coming back that understands how he runs his routes, understands how he wants to win, how he plays the game. And that's just going to lead to a massive production season for him as long as he stays healthy. I mean, you're talking a guy that is going to be the de facto number 1 in that offense. And it would not surprise me if you see 100 receptions for 1,500 yards from him this season.
I could definitely see that happening. And I think you're taking it like me having him at 7 is shade. It's not shade. It's that I like the running backs more.
It's fine.
He's my wide receiver 2 in the class. I'm really excited about him. I think that he's great. I think, if anything, he's closer to being the top of his tier than like Evan Stewart. Like Evan Stewart's closer to being out of the tier than Tet is being to Evan Stewart, if that makes sense. So
okay, which is fair. And as Mike has on the board, Luther Burden, number 1. So I have Tet and Luther in their own tier of their own. They're tier 1 guys for me. They're the wide receivers that I think are going to be superstar potential. When you look at Luther Burden, man, the biggest knock that people are going to have is he wins from the slot. If that's the biggest knock that you're going to have on a guy, that probably means he's pretty dang good at football. And who does he kind of remind you of that used to play at Oklahoma, who also won a lot from the slot?
I heard the comp earlier that he was CeeDee Lamb mixed with Deebo Samuel, and I was just like, guys, this is too far. I love him. Too far.
But yeah, he put Mizzou football on the map. You look at him, he was the number 14 overall recruit in his recruiting class 2022, number 2 wide receiver behind Evan Stewart, actually in that class. Natural athlete. You look at him, fantastic. Long arms. You look at him catch the ball in the air, so he goes up to go get it. Incredible after the catch. Absolutely love watching him with the ball in his hands, which is why his ADOT was a little bit lower. You're looking at a guy with like an 8.7, 8.6, 8.7 ADOT, which was great because what does he do best? Run after the catch. Try and tackle this guy. Physical runner. Put him up against a DB, no chance. They're not standing their own. They're crapping their pants. They're sitting on the field and they're watching him run for a touchdown. Game over. Done.
It's tough. I've heard comps to Jamar Chase. I've heard comps to Deebo Samuel and CeeDee Lamb. I've heard comps to Torrey Holt if he put on like a Super Saiyan outfit. Like there are so many things that people are excited about. And like, I wanted to talk to you about this real quick. Is there a chance that Luther Burden goes number 1 overall, like among all players? Because he's considered to be the best player in the class in some outlets right now.
I think if Shador has a season where he takes a step back, there is a case for it.
Mm-hmm.
Number one teams don't pass on quarterbacks unless there is no quarterback worthy of a top 10 pick. If there's a quarterback worthy of a top 10 pick,
they go one.
They're going one.
Yep. What if it's Carolina, though?
Man, if it's Carolina, I actually think that they would re-roll. If Carolina is one overall, that means Bryce is not good.
Yeah.
Bryce is having a season like he had in his first season in the league. And you're going to have to make that tough decision if we're one overall again and we have Sanders staring us there in the face. Would Dion step in? That's the real question. Would Dion step in and basically create an Eli Manning situation?
That would be very, very fun to watch.
That would be entertainment.
I feel like you would. Because
all right.
He's already said that they want to. Well, I guess he wants to make sure Shador goes one overall. So, do you want to make sure he goes one overall or get to pick where he goes? But we're already 15 minutes over time. I still need to get into my top 5, and then we need to tell people about Dubby. So, number 5, I have Trevion Henderson. Would have been the RB1 this year. I'm curious to see what the splits look like with him and Judkins. Like, supreme athlete, able to accelerate in the open field, able to make guys miss, good with contact balance. A lot of really good things to like there. Just decided to go back to school. NIL's changing the deal. So at number 4, I have Ashton Jeanty, my running back 2 in the class. 43 receptions for 569 yards, plus 1,347 on the ground. I cannot stress this enough. I do not care where he plays football. Ashton Jeanty can ball, and I will go to my grave saying it.
Yeah, Boise State, great football program these days.
I don't care. That's the thing. No, I think if you took Jeanty and plopped him on Ohio State, you plop him on Florida, you plop him on Alabama, like he would be the running back 1 in a lot of those places. Maybe not Ohio State. That's a 3-headed, disgusting monster if he drops there. But I think he eats Nick Singleton for lunch. I think that he, maybe not with the long speed because Singleton is clearly a better track athlete, but I think with everything else that goes into being a running back, making people miss, pressing the line, understanding where to read his blocks and how to manipulate them moving down the field, it's Jeanty by a mile. So
let's remember here, Janty's 3 best rushing games. San Diego State.
Yep.
Colorado State.
Yep.
San Jose State.
Yep. Those are the 3 games that his offensive line was able to stop him from getting hit in the backfield every daggum play.
Okay.
All right. But this is where I have a tier break, and honestly, like I could be talked out of any order between 4 and 9, other than like I won't flip Evan Stewart and Tet. But I would flip Jeanty and Henderson if I had to. I would flip him and Gordon, but like I think it's going to really depend on how this 2025 goes. All I want to point out here is that they're in the 2024 class, you might pick 1 or 2 running backs in the first round of your rookie drafts. In the 2025 class, there's at least 3. There's probably another one that's going to pop up randomly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think at this point it's 4. Like, I am looking for 4, maybe even 5 that are going to go in Dynasty rookie drafts.
Let's run through it real quick. So I have Judkins at 3 overall in my rankings. We've already talked about him a lot. Like true freshman breakouts, he's going to be a stud behind a great offensive line. And if he is the 1A in this backfield, Henderson's stock's going to go down a little bit and Judkins is going to go up even further. Like he's the guy that put Zach Evans in the closet. So love to see that. So you have him, Jeanty in my mind, whether it's the top of the first or the back of the first, Henderson, Ollie Gordon, and then Amarian Hampton, Jonah Coleman, pick your Nick Singleton. Like that's 7 running backs off the top of the dome that could be first rounders in your rookie drafts.
Yeah. You're not even talking about Jordan Jones,
Yeah.
at Oregon. So.
Yeah. But cool. So he's my 3. I have Shadur Sanders as my 2. Again, picture this. Supreme athlete, responsible with the ball, and takes a step forward in their senior season. Well, junior season. Like, people are going to recognize the name. NFL teams aren't going to be able to separate themselves from that. And I think that he showed what I needed him to show under pressure in 2023, that everything in 2024 is gravy. And if he can make Colorado watchable, that's enough. That's enough to take him pretty top. And then number 1, learn the name now, Luther Burden. I was hoping that we would have some discussion here. And then the moment that I threw on a little bit of Mizzou, I was like, because the last time that I watched him was to watch Cody Schrader. So I only did the running back cutups where it was him pass blocking, him doing his silly little traps. And I was like, man, this guy might be an okay NFL handcuff. Little did I know on the other end of those passes he was blocking for was Luther Burden, just absolutely cooking dudes. I don't know what to not like about him other than he's a little short. But Jamar Chase was a top 2 dynasty startup pick for a little bit in 1 quarterback leagues. So it's kind of hard to knock him for that. So cool. We've got number 5, Travion Henderson, 4, Ashton Genty, 3, Quinshon Judkins, 2, Shadur Sanders, and number 1, Luther Burden. We've gone 20 all the way down to 1. I feel like we've given the people a lot of good things to know. Evan, let's go back to the beginning. Give me 1 or 2 honorable mentions that you really want to talk about.
Oh, man. Honorable mentions. Let's go Oscar Delp. We already kind of talked about him a little bit. Taking over for Brock Bowers. Who wants to take over for the most prolific college tight end?
Yeah.
I mean, that sucks, period. That just sucks for the kid to be put in those shoes, because now everybody's going to be comparing him to exactly who was just there, which he is not Brock Bowers. What about, I already talked about Katron Allen as well. So not going to talk too much about him. Damian Martinez. A little bit of interest. I mean,
I can talk about some Damian Martinez.
Okay, production monster.
Well, so this was weird to me. He lined up out wide a couple of times when I was watching him. He was able to move in space and run wide receiver routes in an effective manner, but he wasn't used in the passing game other than for those highlight plays that you're able to see. So showed off the hands, showed off the separation, running little curl routes and in routes and things like that. But I think he only had 11 catches?
Yep. 11 receptions for 126 yards.
So what are we doing there?
I mean, did you watch Oregon State this year?
Not the whole year. I'm talking to get ready for this, I threw on 3 games of him.
Okay. Well, if you watch the progression of how Oregon State football went, it was DJU trying to not lose them games. It was Martinez getting handed the ball continuously. And it was the defense, especially in Corvallis, being absolutely lights out. So.
Okay. Well, still kind of annoying. I just wish that he would have been.
It reminds me of how the old Wisconsin offense used to run. Because remember how everybody had those same arguments?
Yeah.
Right there about Jonathan Taylor? Not comparing him to Jonathan
Taylor.
Wait. Well, let's make this.
You heard it here first. Evan said Damian Martinez.
Monty Ball. Cut. Yeah. So let's just think about that. There are college offenses that just don't use their running backs.
Yeah.
And in the receiving game. And that's just how this offense at Oregon State was run last year.
It was interesting to me because they used him to run routes. They were go play wide receiver. and he earned routes as a wide receiver. But as a check down option in the offense, they were like, "No, we don't need that."
It's decoy. He was a decoy route runner. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. Important question. Listed at 6 foot 238. Over under 220.
Under.
Yeah, right?
Yes. Well, maybe 220. I could believe 218.
That's why I set the line there. I feel like he's
Yeah.
like 215 to 225, depending on if he ate Chipotle that week.
Bulks up for the combine or
Yeah.
slims down for the combine.
To run
see.
faster. Problem
Yeah.
solved. Well, he's somebody that I wanted to talk about. Last player. Have you watched any Toledo this year?
No.
I'm going to tell you about Penny Boone.
I've seen the name.
Great contact balance, runs with a mean streak. Absolutely zero sixth gear. If you are asking this guy to run away from defensive backs or even like athletic edges, not happening. But if you're asking a dude to hit the hole and be a between the 20s rusher, this is your guy. So
Tyler Algier.
Tyler Algier, Brian Robinson, but younger. Braylon Allen, but skinny. Like there's a couple of things on here. So
Okay.
he's a name to watch. I had a little bit of fun watching him, but not. He's not going to be an RB1 for your team, but he's going to be somebody I'm probably swinging on in the second or third of my draft. He's an RB2 that I can play when I need him.
All right. Final question, Mike. Will Iowa average more than 15 points a game this year?
Oh, man. I am going to say yes.
Good.
Because I think they know about the meme by now. So I feel like they have to be better.
You would hope. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right,
Any thoughts about Marcus Carroll?
Not quite sure.
Okay. Well, sorry, out of rhythm. If the folks at home have listened this long, thank you very much for staying with us through the whole thing. Do you want to run through our 20-1 all the way real quick?
No, you can go back through the show.
I'll put timestamps on YouTube after this, but bottom line, we've covered a whole bunch of guys. Very exciting class. We love the running backs in it. We like 3 wide receivers in it, maybe a couple extra ones. As always, we're sponsored by Debbie. I don't know if you saw me drinking a little Debbie to stay awake. What's cool about it? It's jitterless. So after you drink a little bit, you can still go to bed afterwards. It's not too crazy. Use code FFRPG at checkout. Bye-bye.
See ya.